The moon was dead. Not metaphorically, not with drama or decay, but in the most brutal, indifferent sense. ARX-5 stretched beneath the ship like a wound stitched with frost, its windless plains blanketed by silence, so absolute it swallowed thought. No birds, no breath, just ice and silence. Terraforming crews had tried. 3 times. First came the drones, then the geologists, then the engineers. Each left behind more wreckage than results. Now only one outpost remained, a squat gray structure clinging to life by buried fusion coils and flickering AI diagnostics. Inside, nothing moved but cables twitching from sub-zero contraction. Outside, the planet breathed in glacier cracks and distant echoes. A storm curled along the horizon, smothering the sun. And in the outpost's northern quadrant, a man in dark thermal armor stood alone on a metal balcony, eyes narrowed against the white abyss. Elian Rowe didn't mind the cold. What he minded was the quiet that came with it, a quiet that sounded far too much like failure. He had been the last to leave Titan Base, the last to lift off from Luna after the blackout, the last to survive the Ophiuchi breach. Dependable, disposable, a man whose file said loyal under pressure, and whose silence said guilt too deep to voice. He hadn't volunteered, not really, but he hadn't fought it either. ARX-5 was supposed to be his last cleanup assignment, a final phase of atmospheric trials. One station, one man, one last chance to prove that someone could hold the line. That humanity still had places it could plant flags and say, "We didn't run." He ran systems checks, recalibrated thermal pulses, fixed things before they broke. That was the job. But today, something broke that wasn't on the manifest. The heart of the outpost was a 3rd-gen prototype, a semi-sentient atmospheric converter designed to pulse synthetic oxygen into the frozen void and simulate the breath of a living world. It ran hot, loud, and full of theoretical edges. Rowe respected it the way soldiers respect high-grade explosives. It could birth a future or obliterate the present, depending on its mood. Every 12 hours, he logged readings, ran fail-safes, whispered to the reactor as if it could listen. In a way it did, because when the temperature dropped too fast and the generator flickered, it wasn't a machine that failed, it was a promise. The alert was faint. Anomalous motion past grid point 17. No signature, no source. Could have been wind shift or a falling ice plate. But Rowe suited up anyway, slinging his rifle with the muscle memory of old habits, and stepping into the storm. The white was endless. Visibility dropped to 10 feet, then 5. His visor pulsed with overlays, compass, vitals, radiation, but none of it made the storm feel smaller. Then, near the outer limit of the thermal fence, his boots caught something not ice, a shape, collapsed. Humanoid. Covered in frost and filament-thin layers of iridescent cloth now torn by wind. She was curled forward, as if guarding something. And from the center of her chest, beneath cracked armor, glowed a pulsing blue gem, dim, weak, but alive. Her skin shimmered green beneath frostbite. Her hair was silver white, and when he touched her wrist, her pulse was thready, but present. Rowe dropped to one knee, scanning with what portable medgear he had. The crystal embedded in her chest flickered like a failing beacon. Unknown tech, unknown species, no records, no match. The casing around the crystal was cracked, leaking energy in faint arcs that tickled the snow like static. Whatever it was, doing to sustain her, it was failing. And fast. Her skin was cold enough to crack glass, her joints locking in rigor. But that crystal kept glowing, like something remembering what life felt like. She was dying in the one place she wasn't, built to survive, surrounded by warmth. Regulations were clear. Unknown alien life forms were to be scanned, tagged, and left outside the perimeter until retrieval teams arrived. Standard First Contact Preservation Act. But this wasn't theory. This was a body curled into itself like a dying ember. A shape, smaller than him, wounded, shaking. He could report it, mark the location, walk away. Instead, he made a decision. He lifted her. She was lighter than she should have been, bones almost hollow, limbs tense but unresisting. The wind fought him. The cold stung his visor. His boots dragged lines in the snow as he carried her across the perimeter into the humming outpost. Doors sealed behind him. Heat rose. The crystal flickered, once, then steadier. He laid her on a thermal pad, exhaled once, and watched frost melt from her face. She didn't speak, until she did. Her lips parted slowly, as if speaking in a dream. Her voice was warped by the translator, soft but unmistakable. "Let me stay near you, human. Your warmth is the only thing keeping me alive." The phrase lingered in the recycled air like something sacred, something real. He didn't answer. Just stood above her as her body slowly adjusted to the heat. She trembled, not from pain, not from fear, from survival. She slipped into unconsciousness again, breath evening out. As the biocrystal stabilized, Rowe activated the quarantine field, keyed in his report. No species ID, no aggression detected, contained. Then he sat. Across the room, watching, wondering what species bent their warriors into kneeling shapes, wondering what she had meant by warmth, and what she had left behind to reach this place. He didn't have answers, only instincts. One of them, quiet but insistent, said she shouldn't be alone tonight. So he stayed. Not as a soldier, as a man. The alien body lay beneath harsh artificial light, unmoving, still slick with frost. Steam curled where her skin met the warm surface of the medbay platform. Sterile walls hummed with diagnostic energy. Chrome panels reflected her silhouette, curled like a question never asked. Elian Rowe stood beside her, gloved hands steady as he keyed in the quarantine sequence. Red. Holographic lines flared into place around the table. Not a cage, exactly, more a precaution layered in layers of unseen threat. The sensors scanned her body, skeletal composition, vascular flow, crystal-bonded integration, unknown species, unknown behaviors, unknown risks. But her vitals were stabilizing. Barely. The warmth inside the outpost, barely tolerable to humans, was visibly painful for her. Her limbs twitched in response. Her eyes, slitted and frost-ringed, fluttered. Her breath came in short, confused gasps, fogging the glass over her face. The protocols said to keep her isolated. Rowe watched her chest rise and fall and knew that protocol had already been broken. She stirred, fingers curling like charred leaves. Her mouth moved, forming shapes unfamiliar to human senses. Her voice rasped, filtered through a translator struggling to parse ancient phonemes. The med scanner chirped once, data aligning into a name not seen in Terran records for centuries: Iseri, cold-born, mythic, whispered of in science councils and cultural folklore. A race believed extinct after their world shifted axes and the sun became too bright, too close. They had not been seen in living memory. The readout scrolled further: internal cooling systems, integrated biocrystal core, neural sensory inversion, heat triggers neural distress, and yet her survival now depended on it. Rowe narrowed his eyes at the contradiction: a species that feared fire, a woman who had begged for warmth. This wasn't just a biological emergency, it was a cultural collapse. Her world had conditioned her to reject the very thing keeping her alive. The crystal embedded in her chest flickered like a dying star. It was more than a power source. Rowe could see that now. Microfilaments ran from it through her nervous system like branches of a tree, laced with energy conduits and sensor webs. He ran diagnostics. The biocrystal served as both energy cell and cognitive core. Intelligence lived partly within it and partly inside her, and it was cracked. Whatever had damaged it hadn't just injured her. It had compromised the thing that regulated her temperature, memory, and emotional equilibrium. The readings showed proximity-based charging response. Warmth was not symbolic, it was literal. She had meant exactly what she said. His presence, his heat, his closeness, those things kept her alive. And now he had to decide whether to honor that need or hide from it. When he activated the isolation field, her reaction was immediate. Panic surged in her limbs. Her body recoiled from the containment barrier like it was flame, but not because of fear, because it meant distance. She gasped, words that tripped the translator into stammering. Closer, must stay near. Cold is memory, hot is life. He stepped back, instincts flaring. The translator stuttered, parsing meaning from desperation. Her core crystal pulsed in alarm. Her breath quickened. The heat was overwhelming. Her system, and still she reached toward him. He set the barrier to full and stood behind it, trying to find logic beneath emotion. She stared through the field, her hand pressed against invisible energy. Not pleading, insisting. Her voice was hoarse. You are too close, and yet not close enough. She began to shake. Her breath turned into fog inside the capsule. He watched, heart pounding, as her vital signs began to plummet again. He deactivated the field. Slowly, grudgingly, moved her to the main cabin. Set her against the thermal wall, precisely 2 meters from his workstation. Established visual lines. Kept his weapon within reach, maintained distance, and yet everything felt closer now. She sat upright, legs folded, eyes tracking him silently, not blinking, not flinching, studying, learning. She said nothing, neither did he. Between them, heat built, not the kind that comforted, but the kind that revealed. 2 figures on opposite ends of belief, one who had survived by silence, the other by fire. Their glances met, held, broke, not trust, recognition. Like looking at another survivor and knowing, instinctively, that loneliness wore different skins. He initiated the translation program. Her voice emerged first, hesitant, but clear. This place burns like memory. He frowned. You came. Here to die? No, I came here to forget. Cold preserves grief, warmth, demands that we feel it again. He asked what warmth meant to her kind. She said, violation, intimacy, madness. She said, cold is control, heat is chaos. And yet, here she was, embracing chaos for the chance to live. Her presence challenged everything he knew about survival. Where humans evolved by creating fire, the Iseri had endured by extinguishing it. Where he reached for heat to stay alive, she had once been taught it would destroy her. Still, she remained close. Still, she breathed. Her gaze sharpened. The quiet between them turned electric. She asked why he saved her. Curiosity? Pity? Guilt? He countered. Was she alone? A scout? A sleeper agent? A trap? She did not answer right away. Neither did he. In that pause, something deeper stirred. Not affection, not desire, but the ache of 2 people shaped by pain, finally seeing it reflected in another being's eyes. She said, you risked protocol for me. He said, you asked me not to let you die. That wasn't logic. That was something else. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with a slow breath. My group was not alone. His posture stiffened. There are others, she said. Iseri who do not beg for warmth, who see your kind as fire-bearing invaders. They will come. They will not ask. He felt the warning settle into his chest like stone. Her words weren't meant to provoke. They were meant to prepare. I may be the only one who asks to be near you, she said. The others, We'll take it by force." He didn't speak. Because, somewhere beneath the silence, he already believed her. The generator wheezed beneath the storm's weight. Pressure valves shuddered, filters spasmed with irregular pulses, oxygen regulators blinked in warning shades, cycling too fast, too shallow. Roe moved fast through diagnostic panels, running recalibration after recalibration, but the system didn't respond. It resisted him like a living thing. The outpost groaned, the kind of groan that came from deep structure fatigue, metal strained past tolerance. Snow battered the outer shell. Atmospheric regulation had begun to collapse. Thalara stood near the outer corridor, shoulders tight, skin paled to frost. Her voice was soft, almost reverent. "It's not sabotage." Roe looked over sharply. "The relic buried beneath the moon," she said. "It senses me. It remembers us." He didn't know if it was madness or myth, but the walls felt colder when she said it. The lights flickered. The wind howled. Something in ARX-5 had awakened. When the heat grid crashed entirely, time stopped. Temperatures dropped 10 degrees in under 3 minutes. Frost coated the inside of the medbay windows. Thalara collapsed before she could speak, limbs curling involuntarily, core crystal dimming to a weak, pale flicker. Roe swore and grabbed the emergency blanket, cursing as it refused to activate fast enough. Her breathing slowed. Muscles seized. Her jaw clenched against tremors. There was no logic, no protocol. He lifted her, sprinting to the backup unit 2 floors below. Her body barely weighed anything. She was all angles and cold. The thermal unit hissed online, heat, blooming from its vented core. Roe cradled her against it, then closer, pressing her to his side to redirect warmth faster. Her hands curled against his chest instinctively. Not affection. Need. Skin met armor. Armor met heat. Crystal met heartbeat. There was no longer a line between survival and intimacy. Not in that moment. She stirred as warmth returned, eyes flickering with something too deep for language. Her hand tightened at his ribs. Her breathing aligned to his. And then, images. They hit him like memory, but not his own. A burning city with ice towers collapsing beneath black smoke. Cries of children drowned in thermal wind. A single figure standing at the edge of a cliff, holding a glowing stone in both hands before casting it into a crevasse of fire. He reeled, gasped, pulled back instinctively. But her fingers wouldn't release. Her voice, quiet and slow, reached him across the pulse of the room. When we share warmth, we share echoes. He looked down at her, face pale against his dark uniform. It's not emotion, it's history. Passed like breath, a ritual once sacred, now forbidden. Another surge, this time not a place, but a feeling. Exile, not hers, his. The warmth opened a tether, soft and unstable. Roe's thoughts fluttered with alien impressions, fragmented grief. Hollow pride, the taste of betrayal. The unbearable silence of space that should have been a home. It wasn't telepathy, not even memory transfer. It was empathy, raw and unfiltered. Experience passed through the body, not the mind. She lay still, eyes open, crystal pulsing faintly. "Yeah. Closer we stay," she said. "The stronger the resonance." The room felt smaller now. Not because it had shrunk, because he had changed inside it. He had felt her pain, and now he couldn't forget it. The encrypted signal came coded in Old World, phrasing laced with black level flags. Roe opened the message with dread curdling in his spine. Asset location confirmed. Preparing clean sweep. Terminate anomaly if tether is validated. Commandant Rivers en route. Every word was clinical, surgical, but Roe knew what. They meant command was coming. Not to rescue, to erase, to sterilize anything deemed unpredictable. They had tapped into his logs, his ambient readings, maybe even the thermal bleed from the cryo chamber. They knew. His hand hovered over the console. For the first time in years, he hesitated. Not because he feared disobedience, but because obedience had never looked so much like betrayal. She felt it in him the moment it shifted. His stance, his breathing, the subtle silence of someone hiding something. She sat up slowly, pushing off the heating pad with visible strain. "You've changed," she said. He didn't reply. She tried again. "Am I just a liability now?" He looked at her, words trapped between instinct and apology. "You regret saving me." He opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence rang louder than denial. She stood shakily and moved toward the coldest corner of the outpost. Her knees trembled. Her core dimmed again. But she didn't stop until the frost kissed her cheeks. "I'd rather freeze than be your mistake." Warning lights turned amber, then red. Entire sectors of the base blinked offline. A hard power loss rolled through the lower deck, killing auxiliary heating. Temperature dropped fast. Ro didn't wait this time. He grabbed the thermal cloak from the rack and crossed to her in 5 steps. She didn't resist when he pulled her. Away from the frost wall, but she didn't help either. She was cold again. Too cold. He wrapped her in the cloak. She still shook. He stripped off his upper armor. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but disbelief. "This isn't contact," he said. "It's survival." He pressed her against his chest, skin to skin, flesh to frost. Her crystal flared, her breath hitched. His own chest burned with heat, but not discomfort. She had stopped shivering, but neither of them felt steady. She didn't speak for a long time. When she did, it was a whisper. "You weren't supposed to be different." Her body softened. Against him, the tremble was gone. Her skin, once sharp as glass, now warm as stone in the sun. "You're not like the others." He exhaled slowly. "Neither are you." Her core pulsed like a heartbeat, and for the first time the cold didn't scare him. Snow fell in slanted lines, carved by the jet stream as the dropship descended like a blade into the storm. Its hull shimmered black against the gray sky, angular and smooth, humming with the kind of silence that meant power behind restraint. Ro stood alone on the weather-scabbed roof, the chill gnawing through his armor, watching the ship burn through. The upper atmosphere like judgment. The seal on its hull wasn't the rescue division. It wasn't scientific oversight. It was worse. It bore the insignia of Commandant Rivers, a name that didn't mean salvation. It meant closure. Ro's stomach twisted. He'd seen that emblem before, once, on a planet where entire settlements vanished under the banner of containment. He had hoped they would send anyone else, but Command had chosen clean resolution. They had chosen Rivers, and Rivers never came to ask questions. He came to erase answers. The hatch opened with a hiss that cut through wind and metal. Rivers stepped onto the platform as if the storm bent to accommodate him. His posture was rigid, chin high, eyes hidden behind lenses that flashed with infrared. "Telemetry!" 2 bio-armored guards flanked him, faceless behind matte black visors. He looked at Ro like a man inspecting a malfunction, not a fellow soldier. "Where's the anomaly?" The words hit like a round fired at point-blank range. Ro didn't move, didn't blink. Behind layered thermal shielding, deep in the bunker's core, Thalara listened to every word. Her breath came shallow through the comms link. "He will erase." "Me, Ro. You know this." He did, and Command knew he did. Rivers didn't need to find her. He was here to make sure she never mattered. They stood in the corridor beneath the outpost's main deck, the blizzard howling just beyond the barrier walls. Ro remained upright, still, arms folded over his chest. Rivers circled him like gravity itself, slow and inevitable. "She's Iseri," Rivers said. "Genetically verifiable. Your logs are partially encrypted, but not well. She's here." Ro said nothing. That species, Rivers continued, was designated closed contact since the Geneva Variant Accord. You should have reported, quarantined, and removed yourself from the site. Rowe looked past him. I'm asking, Rivers said, voice clinical, cold. Where is the subject? Still, Rowe didn't speak. Not truth, not denial, just silence. Not because he was brave, because he didn't know what would happen if he said anything at all. Thalara emerged from the bunker entrance, moving slow and deliberate. Her limbs trembled, not from temperature, but from resolve. Her biocrystal pulsed with a faint blue glow, rhythmic and controlled. She stood fully visible before the armed men. I surrender, she said. Rowe stepped forward, voice caught in his throat. Her eyes met his, steady and sad. I will not let them destroy. You because you hesitated to save me. Rivers stepped forward with a ghost of a smile. There it is. The anomaly, compliant and intelligent. He raised a gloved hand to signal the extraction. And then Rowe said, no. It wasn't loud. It wasn't defiant, but it was absolute. The guards hesitated. No? Rivers repeated, turning. That's not your word to use, Commander. It is now. For the first time in his career, Rowe refused an order with full understanding of the consequence. Not because he wanted to fight, but because he knew exactly what he was protecting. The floor beneath their boots trembled. A low rumble, like the sound of ice cracking miles deep. Warning sirens pulsed red across the corridor. Atmospheric pressure readings surged. The conduit core registered destabilization levels beyond fail-safe. Oxygen saturation dropped. Power. Relays staggered. Thalara cried out, hand clutching her chest. The biocrystal inside her flared, pulsing erratically. Her knees buckled. Rowe caught her before she fell. Her skin was burning. The tether was too hot. Her resonance with the generator, unintentional, uncontrolled, was triggering feedback. She's destabilizing the system, Rivers barked. She's engineered sabotage. No, Rowe said, voice sharp. She's connected to it. She told me. There's Iseri technology buried in this moon. Her presence activates it. Convenient, Rivers sneered. The monitors above them flashed red across every metric. If the core failed, ARX-5 would become uninhabitable within hours. Rowe looked at the figures. So did she. She already knew what it meant. Thalara pulled away from his arms. Her eyes glowed faintly, sweat beading along her temples. The outpost shuddered again. Steam vented from auxiliary systems. Data surged across control panels. I can calm it, she whispered. Her crystal responded to the core's pulses like two hearts in sync. Rowe's hand gripped her wrist. You're already weakening. If you interface again, I can regulate. My resonance can bring the conduit back into balance. No one's asking you to. I'm not doing it for them. She touched his chest, her palm trembling. You don't understand what it means to be given warmth freely. My kind never knew it. Her voice cracked. I owe you warmth, and you gave it without demand. The phrase echoed back to the first time they had spoken. Let me stay near you, human. Now she would stay near the fire. For him, even if it burned her away. The generator chamber roared with unstable heat. Turbines screamed. Plasma conduits vibrated as containment fields flickered. Thalara walked into the light without hesitation. She passed the final thermal seal. The radiation should have seared her. Instead, the crystal in her chest flared to match it. She kneeled before the primary core, pressed her palm to the glowing conduit surface. Heat spiraled through her body in golden waves. Data surged. Resonance synced. Lights stabilized. The outpost sighed. Power returned. The snowstorm outside began to calm. Readings normalized. Oxygen levels balanced, pressure equalized, and then the light faded. She slumped forward. Her body went limp. The glow in her chest dimmed to nothing. A last flicker. Then darkness. Roe didn't wait for permission. He shoved past the recovery team, tore through the re-engaged quarantine field, boots skidding across metal. He reached her motionless form, arms shaking as he pulled her from the platform. No pulse. No glow. She lay quiet, cradled in his lap, her skin now cold in a different way. Rivers said nothing. Neither did the guards. No one moved. The screen above. Them read, core stable atmosphere stabilized mission successful, but success had never felt so hollow. He held her tightly. A creature from a dying race who had asked only for one thing. Warmth. He whispered her name, and for the first time since arriving on ARX-5, he didn't feel alone. He felt grief. ARX-5 no longer groaned beneath the weight of imbalance. The conduit. Core, once chaotic and pulsing with violent energy, now hummed with a tempered rhythm. The fusion of icy resonance and human calibration had stabilized the atmosphere. Blizzards slowed, their howls reduced to whispers. Snow that once carved through steel now fell gently over quiet structures. Systems aligned. Temperatures leveled. Life could continue. And yet, inside the outpost, peace rang hollow. Monitors blinked in steady green, but the silence in the medbay felt louder than alarms. Roe watched data scroll across the consoles. Stable, functional, safe. But none of it answered the question he hadn't dared to ask out loud. Had the cost been her? The transmission from ARX-5 arrived on Earth 6 hours after stabilization. The raw logs, unfiltered and deeply human, tore through the standard processing systems. The AIs couldn't flag them properly. The keywords weren't about strategy or protocol. They were about mercy, Roe's refusal, his defense, the alien sacrifice. Social feeds lit up. Scientists requested access to the HFY crystal scan. Civilian advocates demanded oversight on Black Ops, operations in contact zones. The term compassion protocol trended within a day. This wasn't just data, it was a story. And stories, when true, didn't just spread. They changed things. Commandant Rivers left ARX-5 aboard the same vessel that brought him. Official statements claimed he had fulfilled primary objectives and ensured continuity of mission. But the field knew better. The whispered truth moved faster than cables. There had been an alien, there had been empathy, and there had been someone willing to stand in the way of both. No charges, no demotion, just a silence that felt like shadow. The rank stayed, but the name? It became cautionary. Never trust the ones who always follow the rules. The medbay lights dimmed at night, but one corner never darkened. There, nestled in stabilized fluid, encased in reinforced cryoglass, floated a single figure. Her limbs curled weightlessly. Her skin, still green-tinted but warmer now. Her biocrystal, once flickering toward death, glowed in soft rhythm. It wasn't recovery, not yet. But it was life. Roe visited every day. No schedule, no appointment. He simply sat beside the chamber and spoke, sometimes about systems, sometimes about snow, sometimes about things he never told anyone else. He didn't know if she heard, but when he pressed his hand against the glass, the crystal inside her chest brightened. Not much, just enough to keep him coming back. They didn't call it punishment, they called it strategic reassignment. Roe received a formal reprimand, archived under Category Red, insubordination under emergency protocol. But beneath it, a secondary message awaited. One from the Council of Interstellar Cooperation, a proposal, lead the ARX Accord, a joint research and diplomacy initiative dedicated to exploring human-Iceri coexistence. Study resonance technology, translate thermal memory transference, build trust. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't planned for it. He just didn't want her to die. But sometimes, a single refusal to obey turned into the blueprint for something new. They told the tale in pieces: a soldier on a frozen moon, an alien who spoke warmth as survival, a system saved not by force, but by shared heat. Outposts picked it up first, then mining crews, then long-haul pilots moving data between colonies. On the Iseri side, elders carved her name into memory walls, painted in the blue-silver ink of remembered sacrifice. He defied the cold. She bridged the divide. It became more than report, more than myth. It became the moment the galaxy realized something. First contact didn't have to mean first blood. The recording light blinked softly as Ro leaned toward the console. He didn't use his command voice. Not the voice they had trained him to project through static and crisis. This voice was quiet, raw. "In the coldest place I've ever been," he said, "I've found the first warmth I've truly known." No dramatic conclusion, no call to action, just a confession. He glanced at the cryopod behind him. Her crystal shimmered again, faint and steady. He didn't believe in miracles, but he waited anyway, and he stayed near, just in case warmth was listening. The HSS Alethea slid through the E. Silence of space, her hull polished like obsidian glass, trailing silver plasma ribbons across the void. Behind her, ARX-5 receded into a shimmering dot, no longer just a frozen moon, but a breathing world. Clouds drifted across its surface, weaving gentle shadows across glacial valleys once too hostile to name. Breathable air, balanced heat, stability. A place reborn. Ro stood at the forward observation deck, arms folded, gaze locked on the streaking stars ahead. They weren't retreating anymore. They were advancing toward the Iseri homeworld. Toward a world he had never seen, but already knew would challenge everything. Behind him, the ship hummed with purpose. Scientists prepped translators. Diplomats rehearsed ancient apologies. Soldiers polished weapons they hoped not to need. The IE galaxy shifted beneath them, but Ro only watched the stars. He knew what they were walking into. He also knew he wouldn't turn back. In the cryo chamber, frost clung to the inside edges of one pod. The light within pulsed steady, blue, violet, then white. Monitors aligned one by one, heartbeat, temperature, cognitive spike. The room smelled of steel and sterilization, but something gentler swirled in the air. Hope, maybe. Ro entered quietly, the door sealing behind him. His breath fogged the reinforced glass. He pressed his gloved palm to the pod's surface, waiting for any sign. Silence answered first, then steam hissed at the seams. The temperature climbed. Her body shifted. Fingers flexed, twitching against the inner lining. Her lips parted, dry, slow, uncertain. A single whisper emerged, faint but undeniable. "Let me stay near you, human. Your warmth is the only thing keeping me alive." The same line, but this time, not spoken from a battlefield or medbay floor. This time, it carried meaning, not desperation, not plea, truth. Ro stood a moment longer, his hand unmoving, before turning to face the glowing light of the medbay. The ship drifted silently toward the alien stars beyond the viewport. He activated his personal log. This wasn't just first contact, it was a promise, and I intend to keep it. The recording blinked once. He didn't look back at the pod. He didn't need to. She was waking, and he was already waiting. They called her anomaly, subject, threat. He paused, voice quiet but unwavering. I call her Thalara, and if there's a future out there. The ship's engines flared as they passed into deep space. It starts with us. The stars blinked across the black. Then a signal echoed in Iseri script. Not intercepted, not translated. Offered, not a warning, a reply.